right against being compelled to be a witness against myself.
Did the Trump legal team ask you to prepare a memorandum regarding the vice president's role in the counting of electoral votes at the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021?
Yeah.
Dr. Eastman, did you advise the President of the United States that the Vice President could reject electors from 7 states and declare that the President had been reelected?
Yeah.
Dr. Eastman, the first sentence of the memo starts off by saying 7 states have transmitted dual slates of electors to the President of the Senate. Is that statement in this memo true?
Yeah.
Did President Trump authorize you to discuss publicly your January 4th, 2021 conversation with him?
Yeah.
So is it your position that you can discuss in the media direct conversations you had with the President of the United States, but you will not discuss those same conversations with this committee?
Yeah.
Dr. Eastman pled the fifth 100 times.
This is Michael Popak, Legal AF. Remember John Eastman, constitutional law professor, lawyer for Donald Trump, one of the architects of the fake elector scheme, the pressure campaign on Mike Pence to delay the certification and to keep Donald Trump in power. Well, he's not only been listed, of course, in the District of Columbia's indictment as an unnamed co-conspirator, but obviously John Eastman, and also an indicted conspirator in the Georgia state prosecution, but Jack Smith's not done with him. We know that because there's new reporting coming out from Politico that John Eastman, who testified by waiving the Fifth Amendment privilege to try to save his bar license, as opposed to what you just saw him do on Jan 6th, where he, in consultation with another guy wearing a bow tie, who I assume was his lawyer, took the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination every time to every major question asked by the committee. But in the time of the state bar, to try to remain a lawyer, he testified for 3 days, over 12 hours of testimony, in which he tried to defend his role in the fake elector scheme, the development of the pressure campaign, the constitutional usurpation of power by Donald Trump and the like. And so this is like manna from heaven for prosecutors because in order to save his bar license, he didn't take the Fifth Amendment. He spoke freely about his interactions with Donald Trump, about what he did, the legal memos that were used, the getting together all of the fake electors in 7 different states. And so this is pay dirt for prosecutors. And they have, through subpoena, obtained from the State Bar of California all 3 days of John Eastman's testimony. Now, John Eastman is the reason he's not out of the woods yet. People might think, well, he's already been indicted in Georgia. And he's named sort of as an unindicted co-conspirator in the indictment that's going to trial for by Jack Smith in March. So, what else? What else can they do? Well, he's still in the crosshairs with the D.C. prosecutors, as are the other unnamed co-conspirators: Sidney Powell, Ken Chesebro, Rudy Giuliani, Boris Epshteyn, and John Eastman. All of them are either going to cooperate, and I'll tell you which ones I think are going to, with the District of Columbia prosecutors, the DC, the Department of Justice prosecutors, or they risk indictment themselves in a separate indictment, not one that has Donald Trump headlining it. To answer the question, why were they mentioned as unnamed co-conspirators like John Eastman in the indictment? What's the benefit of that? Well, one, it puts pressure on them to either face future indictment or to cut a deal with the prosecutor's office against Donald Trump. That's one. But secondly, when you have a conspiracy case, and remember the indictment in the District of Columbia that's presided over by Judge Chutkan is 4 conspiracy counts, which really boil down to obstruction in the clinging to power by Donald Trump. 4 conspiracy counts, and that means there's co-conspirators. And if these people are unindicted co-conspirators, their out-of-court statements and actions can be attributed to Donald Trump if they are their empty chairs are listed in the indictment. That's why it was done, for those couple of reasons. Doesn't mean just because the grand jury has gone dark in the District of Columbia and hasn't met in a while, it doesn't mean they can't fire them back up. as part of the special counsel's role and bring in new evidence that's being developed right now. So if anybody thought, and I've said this before on Hot Takes and on Legal AF, we're out of the woods. Donald Trump's going to trial and I'm not. Forget it. Because there's plenty of time left on the statute of limitations clock to bring an indictment against you, Boris Epshteyn, current lawyer and counselor and political consultant for Donald Trump. There's plenty of time to bring it against John Eastman. And they're going out, this is the first reporting, to get new evidence. How could they ignore the evidence? It would be legal malpractice if the prosecutors, knowing that John Eastman dropped his Fifth Amendment privilege objection and defense and freely testified about everything related to Donald Trump, Jan 6th, and the attempt to overthrow democracy. How can they ignore that? They had to go get that. So they subpoenaed it. They got it. It's on the docket. You know, all the October and into November testimony of John Eastman is now in the hands of Jack Smith, special prosecutor, for him to evaluate how those statements, you know, they can also try to compel John Eastman to testify. Now, if John Eastman doesn't want to testify at that trial of Donald Trump, I mean, he is listed as an unindicted co-conspirator. He does have Fifth Amendment rights. They could put him on the stand. He could take the Fifth and not testify. Or they could give him immunity, some sort of limited use immunity, transactional immunity. There's different flavors of immunity, if you will, that a prosecutor can give to this particular witness. If they give the immunity, he's got to have to testify. It goes through a court process. Judge Chutkan will evaluate when she's finally ready to restart her trial. There's time now on the clock because the trial of Donald Trump, as we've done the reporting from the MeidasTouch Network, is sort of in stasis right now. We put a pin in it. We're holding the ring. We're waiting for the appellate court to finish their briefing schedule on whether immunity, a presidential immunity or otherwise, should lead to the dismissal of the very indictment, and that may get decided by the U.S. Supreme Court as well. So the trial is a little bit on hiatus for the next week or two as this briefing through the holidays happens. So there's time to progress through the investigations, other cases against these other co-conspirators, which a grand jury could then spit out another indictment and take that case into 2024. And certainly those cases would be 2024, maybe even 2025 cases. So John Eastman, who the Jan 6 committee identified as somebody who was a threat to our democracy. Ken Chesborough, already cooperating with prosecutors, having pled guilty to a felony. Sidney Powell, probably next in line related to that. Rudy Giuliani looks like he's going down with the ship in his defamation case, civil defamation case, and in Georgia as well, and the rest. We'll continue to follow everything related to John Eastman, all of the unindicted co-conspirators, and Jack Smith's next move, and the other prosecutors' moves, one place, exclusively here on the MeidasTouch Network. You can follow us on it. Also, we curate the leading podcast at the intersection of law, politics, and justice. We call it Legal AF. It is exactly what you think. You like these kind of hot takes? You'll love what we do on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You like lawyers who know what they're talking about at the intersection of law and politics? You're going to love this show. Join us there. Give me a thumbs up on this particular hot take and leave a comment. It's ratings. It helps with the algorithm. Helps keep this content and me, Michael Popak, on the air. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popak reporting.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.